Hello folks, I'm a bit under the weather, so if I make mistakes, please forgive me. Today I'm in the mood to analyze each candle, so I'll pick a pair and stick with it from start to finish. Let's start with the euro dollar. In principle, it's usually tough. We'll stick with it from start to finish. So the euro dollar is open, so I was testing a strategy from amateur traders here. Let's set the candles. So S5, euro dollar, and the percentage is 70. Why? No, if they lower it, it won't work. I'll look for something else. You see, the problem is that there's this big impulsive candle everywhere. Doesn't matter. All right, any pair really, and I'll read the candles anyway. The history isn't that important. Let's stick with AUDUSD. We'll try to read each candle. So I'll probably need a 5-minute time frame for this. Or okay, let's try on 15, but I haven't done that yet. All right, AUDUSD. I'll check the percentage just in case things are bad there too. 71 more or less, but I think I'll lower the amount. We'll take some recent intervals. For example, we'll take this maximum and this minimum. There are some volumes here specifically at this moment, but I'm afraid there has already been a retracement from this volume. Currently, the area of interest by the cluster is not bad. There is support in the third block. That is, there is an option to go higher and there are more buyers too. Therefore, AUDUSD 2 minutes, I'll start with an increase. I'll prepare the amount for a follow-up. Entry, good, full-bodied. The volume is entirely on the buyer. The area of interest is pushing. The strength from above is not falling yet. There are many ticks and there is also decent support from below. That is, well, I won't take all the facts and logic for every candle for a further upward movement. So purely, if we look at this sideways movement, what interests us first? First, we will probably be interested in this stop from where a reaction might occur because there was a downward candle from here. Theoretically, let's see. For now, the marking will be like this. We are waiting. So 3 seconds to the end, it's hovering near the opening point. Nothing happened. So 100 here, entry for an increase. In the end, it did give an impulse, so the amount for the catch-up. Plus, it returned, that's all clear, that's all understandable. But there still hasn't been any normal movement here. Practically from the same place where we were, we stayed there, 4 minutes to the end. The area of interest has grown even more. Therefore, also for an increase, I do not see any depth facts for a decrease yet. The only thing is I enter for 2 minutes and need to catch the follow-ups. So a sharp impulse movement occurs in the opposite direction. The follow-up opens. 650 is the amount here. We continue to wait 3 seconds until the end of the first one. The first one is a plus. We wait for the second one. 3 seconds until the end of the follow-up. The follow-up is also a plus. So let's return the amount here. Here are all the closed trades. Here's the movement on TradingView. It practically hasn't moved from its place until the end of the 15-minute candle. We have a minute 35 left. We see that some seller is already appearing at the very top. Where he appears from is unclear. As a result, the candle will close with a slight pullback movement. Fewer sellers, more buyers. The volume will be less than it was in the previous candle. And what do I need to do in this situation now? If a seller has appeared, it means the seller should go down. I see the candle is being bought up now, meaning the buyers are competitive. That's it. They have suppressed this seller. Therefore, a trade will be opened here for another 2 minutes, used also upwards. 250 byte is the amount for catching up. For now, we are waiting. 3 seconds remain until the end. This is a plus again. Let's go. Look here. The candle closes with a full body. A seller appears at the very top. The area of interest is thrown to the middle. Very strong support, both from above and below. We continue the movement. Now we will approach this place that I have just marked. Here, we already need to think about the further movement upwards. What will happen here? So, I will probably mark the nearest highs like this. The nearest highs for the price, right? That is, it goes up, here's its nearest high, then its next nearest high. This is already the main one for this time period. So of course it would be great to go towards this, but there are still 2 walls on the way. From this high, there was 1 candle from here. This is where it all basically started. A pullback began, and the movement after which we saw 1 pullback candle. The volume increased significantly on it. The volume increased and the buyer closed the candle in his favor. That is, I can't say that there was a strong seller at this moment who could reverse the movement. Overall, I see from the buyer that the movement is still upwards. Therefore, for me, probably entering up to this high would be a priority in principle. So I think I will try to take 2 more minutes to this high in my favor. We'll see further. So the percentage is not dropped. So what now? Now we are updating the high of the candle. Yes, so if I switch to say a 5-minute time frame or a 1-minute time frame, there will be no level at all. So on higher time frames, after updating the highs of the candles, some reaction might occur, but we immediately assume that the buyer is making an upward move. Such large candles are not just to update some high of a candle from where there was a small movement, right? They are interested in profits. The profit is higher up. After the news, we went for an increase, most likely to recover. from this misunderstanding. And it would be more or less likely if we return to this price range, 342, compared to all this. So far, it looks good for the movement. For further upward movement, we are waiting. Okay, 2 seconds to the end. Plus, I'm showing on TradingView, so it's quite likely that this movement is towards the next high. The strength is not ending. 850 in principle in the zone of interest. There's no sign of a seller yet, but here you need to be more cautious. But the candle is solid, so if anything, we will adjust. Or do another entry for an increase. For now, I can remove this. We don't need it anymore. We've passed this. We're approaching our point. X on the map, it's the main one here. Well, this is the main high for this interval, by the way. Let's now look at the history and see what we have above. Above, we have nothing, honestly. This is, of course, very bad, the very top on such volumes, but there was a spike here. It was a very strange spike for the buyer. Theoretically, something could be happening here. Let's mark the highs. Our next stop will be located here. All right, we'll work with what we have. Candles, volumes. So we passed this high. By the way, what's here? Here, it's already 40 seconds. No, we're flying fast. Here's the next stop. This stop is not serious, but something could be here. We'll orient ourselves by the volume cluster. The strength is not dropping yet. The seller hasn't appeared yet. 8 minutes left. Candle. So a lot can still happen in 8 minutes up to a pullback movement. Here, 6 seconds remain until the end. This is another plus, and this is already our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth plus on one pair. This is how you can simply follow the movement. Let's see what happens next. Now, if there really is a great seller here, we should somehow observe this seller. I am not observing him anywhere at all. In terms of volumes, he is absent. He is negligible. All the buybacks that the seller makes, the buyer provides resistance back. You see, buying back all the movements in the cluster, it appears it's 147. Look at the support in the cluster from the buyer. Oh my, this looks like a further upward movement. The candle will be full-bodied, probably, although 7 minutes is a lot. So 268 appears a little stronger. Let's see the reaction of the buyers, how they will behave. Up, up. Did you see the reaction? Up. So everything that the seller tries to buy back, the buyer buys up. Therefore, I still see an entry for an increase here. If suddenly a seller appears, we will act according to the circumstances. We will need to adjust, we'll adapt. Now, the nearest place where the next seller might appear, I have it marked. How it looks like this. Why might a seller appear here? Because there was such a point X here, so to speak. In this place, first of all, the volume increased compared to all previous ones, meaning there was some interest here. They stopped here, but they didn't go up. They went down. They went down with a good movement, right? So after this stop, so therefore I can assume that from this place, a pullback movement might occur again. There's still a minute near the opening point. I see that at the very top, the buyer is somehow fading. This is not good, but the seller hasn't appeared yet. We wait a little. 3 seconds remain until the end. Yes, that's a plus, another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th consecutive plus on one currency pair. This is the kind of candle our dust gives us. A 17-point seller now. We are approaching this very point. X to make the right decision. I need to look, well, let's think logically. We are approaching with a good full-bodied candle with strong support from the buyer with increased volume, complete absence of a seller. Well, all the facts point to passing this annoying stop and flying calmly higher. So therefore, I need a bit of information now to continue trading on one currency pair. Well, I didn't think it would all go so quickly. 3 minutes to the end. Right now, I would like to observe. We are updating the maximum. Yes, so that's it. We updated the maximum with this move, took it out, that's all. Now, there is a reaction from the seller. So if the seller is strong, we should see their dominance now. 239 ticks. Look, the support from the buyer is becoming already less. There were 421 at the very top. Well, that was the previous candle. We held it, by the way, with such support from below. So let's watch the reaction of buyers to the buybacks. Here we have a seller. There was a removal. If there was a removal, here is a real seller. We should see this seller now. I see that the seller is making rollback movements. The buyer is closing them back. The buyer is imposing the struggle is on the seller. And after the removal of the maximum, we should have a strong seller. Do you see what he's doing? That is, right now, he has completely bought out the seller. So I don't see a seller here. It's illogical. Where are you? I think it's generally correct to consider a further entry to continue the movement. Since the seller hasn't appeared, could he appear higher? He could. You see, there's this thing here that there's nothing to hold on to. There's this damn local mirror level that they might still use. Old timers trading based on technical analysis from 90s books, right? But there's a long distance to it, so there's nothing to hold on to here. Therefore, purely theoretically, my movement now is open up to this nearest point, theoretically. And for this movement, we have a good big candle. We have movement overall. The thing here is what? The thing here is that the seller might appear a little higher since we have a long distance to the next stop right. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But already look, at the top, there's no longer the same buyer strength that was initially in this candle. Something is already starting to happen. So here you need to think further about further movement upwards. For now, we are near the opening point. Very close. I won't take any actions since during this time in principle it can return here. We wait a little. There are 5 seconds left until the end. They will close me at a loss. We are closing on the seller. No. There was a buyer at the top, no support below. The area of interest is lower than the middle. This looks like some kind of pullback movement overall right now. Let's think logically about this situation. We had a good full-bodied one. We came and took the maximum by the end as the candle closes, some kind of seller from 14. Damn, it's tick-based. Is that strength? Look, the whole candle is generally green, but the buyer is also losing strength. 240 it was, but we still pulled back. We closed on the seller at 14 ticks below. There is no support nearby. The area of interest is very far away. So in terms of the cluster, it's neither a buyer nor a seller, but you can give more to the buyer since we have almost everything green. So to say that the seller is strong, you can't say that based on the cluster. Can you say that the seller is strong based on volumes? No, you can't say that. There wasn't more of it than in this candle. And we, by the way, updated the maximum where there should be more of the seller. Logically, yes, we are reasoning. The volume overall didn't increase either. So most likely, all because nothing normal appeared here, seller here. Right now, there's simply a divergence happening. A divergence has appeared. Divergence, well, that is a little retracement movement due to the divergence, like this little cross, and further movement upwards. Well, I think so. Yes, that's my opinion. So let's try it this way and do it. We'll open a follow-up for an increase of 250. 650 will be enough. So, well, right now, in this situation, I have nowhere else to go as I have to read each candle. I see a loss of strength from the buyer, but I also don't see a good seller in this candle. But logically, I understand that we had a removal of this maximum and the seller there should be more of him. But he made such a pullback movement, went here, and again, they imposed green resistance on him. He didn't reveal himself by volume. He didn't reveal himself by cluster. So I make a decision based on what I have, what I see as facts. And my decision in this situation belongs to the buyer. It may be completely wrong because right now in this cross, look, the seller is already being compared as it was in the previous candle, and only 4 minutes have passed since the candle formed. So already in this cross, the seller becomes more or the buyer becomes weaker. But again, I still see resistance from the buyer. And that's very good. And I don't see a strong seller. Therefore, again, well, everything here is still in favor of the buyer for me. Then we wait a little. So just a bit not keeping up. Here, a plus of 15 points. And this is how we buy back. We continue our movement, E upwards, E turns out, after all the facts were correct. There is support. The seller hasn't appeared. Awkward. Where might the next one appear? I'll note for myself. Purely for myself. From there, some kind of pullback movement might occur. Now, in principle, this is also a very important fact. This is also old school technical analysis, which also might work, even with a small movement, but it can work. It's important to take this into account. So again, I have it open from here. We look, the candle was bought up, the seller hasn't appeared, everything is in favor of the buyer. The seller has become a little more in volume. What do I see next in the cluster? In the cluster, the zone of interest is still in the middle with the seller on top. So again, I don't see further upward movement in the cluster. There, 390, we won. That's it. What? 6, again on the rise, 250. That is, I saw the seller, after which the seller does not roll back the movement. The cluster changes to a very good victory for the buyer. Yes, accordingly, the seller who appeared, we suffocated and closed. We basically have a path to go higher up to this green line. This is very important. Well, in this way, you sit and control every candle, every volume, the whole situation. Yes, it's possible, guys. It's easy. I can make such a video constantly. It's not a problem for me to sit and read each candle. When I don't understand something, I just wait for the candle to close, to see how it closes and draw some conclusions. But understand right now, reading each candle, wow, holy crap, what is that? Well, after something like that, I would probably use a follow-up here. What is this unjustified impulsive movement in the opposite direction? That requires some explanation. Where did it come from? Out of nowhere? All right, not a big deal. Wow, in 3 blocks at once. Where did the seller come from out of nowhere? They should be buying up for 3. Immediately a giveaway by volume and by cluster. All right, not that important. Continuing my thought about reading each candle. It's something like, like a masterclass. Like they made you need to demonstrate something there, show something, you show it, right? What you can do. But would you do it like that in an official, let's say, game? For example, right? That is, for example, in football. Yes, by the way, look, the first one is also giving away. In football, for example, let's take Ronaldinho. Yes, he does such tricks like with the ball and he holds it on his head and on his back, all of that. But he doesn't use these tricks, that is this technique in the actual game. Why? Because they won't let him do it. He can use it, he can outplay, show beauty, but it won't benefit the team overall. Let me put it differently. It won't be safe. Yes, if he does some beautiful trick during an important match, it won't be safe because it might not work out. The ball could be taken away and it could result in a goal against his team. And it's the same here. I can read it, but at some point things might not go according to my plan. By the way, yes, look, another advantage in this pair. I think that's enough. There you go. And this might lead me to, say, a 3rd place, but ultimately to a loss. Like for a masterclass, something like, look what I can do. Yes, it's cool. It's great. When you have experience, that is, I don't need to sit there searching for situations. Even though I always try to find situations that are more or less suitable for practice rather than just sitting and reading every candle. Although this is also in principle but permissible at my level. But this is unsafe in terms of training and understanding price movement, cluster volumes. For God's sake. 24/7 on a real account, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But as they say, the owner is the master of their account. In general, you could just say, look, it's going up and I just opened trades upwards. But as you can see, I entered here based on fact, not just for an increase. And here, by the way, is that very reaction of the seller. For after this maximum was removed, it is also present. Did we see the seller? We did not. The next place where a seller might appear for us is in this place. But look, the seller becomes more prominent after this line. But we are imposing good resistance. Very good. Oh, how my hands are itching. Oh. What? Wow. Come on, come here to the clusters. It's not beneficial. Look, what a giveaway. What domination over the seller is happening here? Just the beating. Nothing. The reaction I saw. Now the reaction can be expected from this place. I hope that I can calmly still take this profit, even though I'm practically opening in this area. But again, I prioritize good candles, meaning strong movement against some lousy local level. But that's illogical, right? It makes sense to come for this liquidity. That would be much more correct. So yes, from here. In general, there might be some retracement movement, but not with the strength that it shows me, the buyer shows me. Trying to take a plus here once more, I hope. Oh, I can. Let's wait for the last one. Although as a rule, when I do this, it already takes me on 2 or 3 runs. We wait. So 3 seconds to the end. It's just a flight to the moon here. Oh, it's happening. Well, it's basically logical. This place will be more interesting to them. Well, since such an approach is already happening, let's think about whether we can work this approach on a decline against such a movement, entering on a decline. Okay, let's remove everything unnecessary. Wow, they're pouring a lot. So we have 2 such interesting stops here. They were made at 10 in the morning at the opening of London. Volumes. Is this London? Not to mention the Asians. The Asians are the same. All right then. Could there be liquidity here? Logically by volume. By volume, we don't see liquidity here according to this guy, according to the market profile. There's emptiness in this place. That is, again, the entire foundation is located below. All right. Nothing is revealed anywhere here. But from this point, for example, there was a good drop. From this point, we had a small accumulation. There was a drop. So logically, some seller might appear here and it's time to make a correction. Wow, 1400 at the very top in the very area. He just came to his house and then started doing this to the poor bearded man. My goodness, such a thing, of course, you wouldn't want to miss. That is with each volume candle. It becomes more and more from the buyer, and it even gets colored, look, and there is the pullback movement after the peak, but logically they should buy it back. Therefore, we will use a follow-up here. For now, we wait 3 seconds first, plus everything showed. Waiting for the second. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pluses in less than an hour. Oh my God, that's what you call reading. Even the buyback was read, that they would buy back in general. Guys, this is the kind of video I made today with reading each candle. If you want to do the same, join my closed community and I will teach you. No, I won't be able to teach you this because you're not ready for it. To do this, you first need to learn. To earn on simple situations, on pullbacks, on approaches to areas. By the way, it pulls back well, but it pulls back from a different level now. So what now? Now it's time to say goodbye. If you found this helpful, give it a like. A like here, write an interesting comment, and subscribe to the channel